Well, hello there. You're listening to a special Italian Pride episode of the Leg Kick Podcast. Fratelli d'Italia. Dun dun da dun dun da.
Are you really going to sing the entire Italian national anthem?
No, that's why I stopped just now.
Okay,
anyways,
thank the Lord.
We're the Leg Kick Podcast. David's not here. He's running scared, like Israel Adesanya is running scared from Marvin Vettori.
Oh.
But David's running from his verbal beating. And you know what? It's a bad week for Nigerians, let me tell you that. Because Marvin Vettori has just announced that he's on his way to the throne. But before that...
He's coming for the rings?
He's coming to restore Italians back to our former place of championship glory, like Georgia Petrosian has already done. But before we get to that, I'm one of your hosts, Stefano Hosko. I'm here with Michael Asiffo.
Such an interesting pause there. Hey everybody, it's Michael Asiffo here.
Resident Joseph Kony impersonator, the works, everything that I usually say about him. Jalof Jeremy, he's here. He's
good evening, guys. Glad to be in your presence.
Oh, also, I apologize for low energy now because I am medically induced with all kinds of allergy medicine. So,
those are the worst. I've been on opiates for painkillers before for my knee surgery, and nothing messes you up worse than allergy medications, in my humble opinion. That is what I expect heroin to feel like.
Not opioids, the literal refined version of heroin.
Yeah, opioids were a little disappointing, to be honest with you. I took them and I'm like, weed's better. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, guys, like the podcast if you're not subscribed to us.
Hold on. Disclaimer: we do not endorse drug use or drug abuse on this podcast.
Mike doesn't. Mike doesn't. I do. Anyways, subscribe to the podcast wherever you can find us on YouTube. We make ourselves very, very available for you, like a guy that inevitably gets rejected. We are on Spotify. We're on the podcast app, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can find podcasts. You can be sure that you'll find the Leg Kick. Go like our Instagram page. Share our content around. If you like what we have to say, you think it would help a friend, a filthy casual friend, let them know. Send us their way, and we will educate them for you and turn them into a hardcore.
Cool.
Anything else, guys? Before we get into
I was just doing sign language for you.
That is appalling sign language, and on behalf of our deaf listeners, I am offended. Anyways, anything else? Anything you guys want to say before we get into news?
No. Let's do it.
I got a question. How do deaf people listen to podcasts without subtitles? Because we clearly don't have them.
We do have subtitles.
Very insensitive of us.
We do get subtitles. We have a closed captioning on YouTube.
There we go.
Right, well, but I guess the audio version of our podcast, if they wouldn't be able to, but on our video version, we have closed captioning, and we also are looking into getting one of those CP24 sign language people that were doing the thing early coronavirus. Remember the homeboy with the earrings and the ponytail back in the early coronavirus days? Like I'm talking like March, April of last year, and he was doing this thing, right? And Doug Ford was like, "Yo, look at this gangster."
The first month of Corona, all the sign languagers were ready to go. Like, hey man, I'm ready to get on TV. I'm ready to do my thing. But then after the month, all of them just looked outward.
Jeremy, that wasn't sign language you just did. That was gang sign language. Anyways,
yeah, it was. Basically, it's the same thing. But they were ready to go. But after the first month, they all just looked outworked.
Everyone looked tired. To be honest, everyone looked tired. Like, what's her name? Dr. Tam. I was always saying when she was on the TV, she looked like she needed a break.
A
break.
I'm sure she does. I'm sure the woman's working overtime. Anyways.
My bad. Sorry.
Mike, when you made the reference to the ponytail guy, there's 3 people in the back of the room that understood that. So, on to the news. Let's see. see, where do we leave off? Oh, I don't think you guys talked about this last week, but Misha Tate, while fighting in the UFC, is going to remain vice president of ONE FC.
Oh yeah, that is a thing. Wow.
Isn't
I don't
that
know how they
interesting?
swung that, but it seems like the UFC has a amicable relationship with ONE FC. Given that they did the trade, remember?
I think it's amicable in the sense that as long as ONE FC exists, the UFC is like, look, we're not a monopoly. Look at them. They control Asia. So
Fair
I think
enough.
they're convenient bedfellows of convenience.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It's kind of like how for a while Ryzen was like, or Risen, depending on your pronunciation, was like around, but not around enough to really challenge for anything. And the UFC could always point to them.
Whereas ONE Championship loves the fact that the UFC exists. Like the promotion for we haven't talked about the Alvarez Demetrius Johnson card, have we?
No, we didn't.
We got to mention that. Yeah, whereas the promotion on that card was just sickly. Like they're like,
oh yeah, they were hopping the backs of the UFC.
They were just like UFC athletes that have come into ONE Championship before have struggled. Eddie Alvarez failed to get his win in ONE F Championship, and they're like, guys, he has a win. Shot reset your dogs there. He's like, he came in and he lost in under a minute to Timofey Nastasiukin, and then he had a win too, guys. And then Demetrius Johnson, it's like, okay, all right, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to market yourself off the backs of the UFC. Very classic.
This is why I think that the ONE Championship intentionally. I think this is the thing with ONE Championship is that they actually did kind of throw both Eddie, all three of them, if you think about it, Sage, Eddie, and Demetrius into the fire there, right? They kind of threw him into the wolves, if you really think about it, which I think is kind of smart to say, hey, we've got the best competition, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, because we beat the UFC guys, right?
Yeah. Greasy as that may be.
Yeah.
Next in the news, we have Amanda Ribas versus Angela Hill.
I like this fight. I like this fight a lot. Good bounce back fight for Ribas.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Apparently, the UFC is going to leapfrog John Jones, and apparently, Magumba versus Derek Lewis is in talks right now.
I don't know if it's going to be the Michael Chandler effect. Okay, remember when Dustin Poirier versus, I want to say Tony Ferguson was a thing that was in talks and like everyone was really excited? And then Dustin Poirier wanted to be paid like a real prize fighter, and Dana White said, nah. And then he talked to Michael Chandler to bring him over. Remember that? Am I making sense? Does that sound like a timeline that we remember, people?
Yeah, but talk to me about how the Chandler situations were related to that.
Okay, so as a result, because Michael Chandler was going to take the fight versus Tony Ferguson, for a little more money than Dustin Poirier, but not as much as a prize fighter should. And what ended up happening is Michael Chandler became the most hated man in the lightweight division, at least to Dustin Poirier.
Because Poirier is one of the nicest human beings in the world, and it gives Chandler the impression that he's a strike breaker.
Yeah, exactly, right? Where it's like, yo, you just cut Dustin Poirier's negotiation at the knees. I don't think that's going to happen here, but I think Derek Lewis has to be very careful, when it comes to negotiations like this, especially when the shoe's going to be on the other foot. If, let's say, he beats Magumba, if the fight does end up happening.
Just shows you what a lack of solidarity there are among the fighters. Next, we've got Tai Tuivasa versus Greg Hardy announced.
I don't care about this fight.
I don't either. Moving on. Aspen Ladd versus Macy Chiasson, signed for July 24th.
I don't care about this fight.
Why? Speaking of fights we don't care about, Macy Barber versus Miranda Maverick.
I care a little bit about this fight.
I care about it enough to see Macy Barber get grounded and pounded.
the reason why I care about it is because I think Maverick is interesting. I think if they build her up right, she can be interesting. Good little young prospect. I shouldn't say little like that, but yeah, nice. She's a prospect that showed a good all around game or a propensity for it against Savage Robertson. So
I get the
we'll see.
impression you don't think she's gonna go too far.
No.
No? Okay. Fair enough.
Anyways, next we've got some Neil on Neil action. Neil Magny versus Jeff Neal.
Bad fight for Neil Magny.
Bad fight for Jeff Neal.
You think so? You really think so?
I mean, if Magny is able to keep consistent volume and mix in his wrestling, it could be a long night for Jeff Neal. If he's able to mix in the wrestling. We'll see, though. Jeff Neal hits like a truck.
I was about to say, and it's not just like truck. He's a technical fighter. I get it. Like Wonder Boy kind of beat the brakes off of him, but technical striker too. So, yeah.
Next, we've got Rory McDonald's first fight in PFL, and David Michaud fell out. I believe he's got some kind of heart condition. So our thoughts go to David Michaud. Unfortunately, he's out of the fight. I didn't even know he was announced to fight Rory McDonald, but now Curtis Millender will be stepping in to face Rory McDonald on April 29th in PFL.
To be honest, I think Curtis Millender is a tougher fight for Rory, if I remember Curtis Millender.
The thing about Millender is he's shown to have an absolute complete lack of a ground game.
That's true.
Although he does have a win over Kevin Holland, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, Holland also showed a complete, well, not ground game per se.
Lack of wrestling. And an inability to stay off the bottom.
Yeah. But pretty good off his back, though. Anyway, we'll talk about that.
Now, I don't know how seriously to take this announcement, but apparently Henry Cejudo versus Floyd Mayweather is in the works in Risen. I do not know whether it's knowing Floyd, this would be a boxing match.
Didn't he do something with that young kid, Tenshin Nasukawa?
Yeah.
Where it was like, we thought it was going to be a kickboxing match. I was like, oh, Tenshin Nasukawa was going to kill him. And then they're like, oh, no, it's a boxing match. And
Floyd's not dumb.
Lost it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no way. There's no way in hell this is going to be. If it does happen, it's going to be Floyd outboxing Henry Cejudo and Henry Cejudo getting paid what he deserves.
Yeah. Right. Which is sad that MMA fighters have to go to another sport to do that, but okay.
Oh, it's sad, especially for a guy like Cejudo that's, Triple C, man. He's Triple C. And Aljamain Sterling apparently going to undergo neck surgery for his C6 and C7 vertebrae. He's going to be out for quite a while due to a lingering injury.
Yeah, that's rather unfortunate. Really, really sad. For anyone who's kind of had any neck issues, especially around that C6 and C7, which is like, right there.
I've had some neck issues.
Yeah, it's right where like the neck and the trap meet. It's apocalyptic because it's always getting hit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you have to roll on it. When you're up against the wall, you have to it's terrible. So, hopefully he heals up and it goes well for him. And, take your time. Don't rush into it because everyone's kind of mad at Aljamain. My advice is always don't rush surgery, right? Take as much time as you need.
And next we have Jeremy versus Mike for the Asiffo Championship of the World.
Let me just say that's a bad matchup for Jeremy. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
What are we competing?
Wait, so you think it's a good matchup for Jeremy?
It's a.
What are we?
Actually, Jeremy.
Kick my ass. It's for the Asiffo Championship of the World. Jeremy versus Michael.
What style of combat?
Mixed, no holds bar. So early UFC, there's nut shots allowed. In fact, we'll have a new rule for the Asiffo Fighting Championship. The only strike that's allowed is bites and groin strikes.
I give the edge to my mother when she breaks it up.
Respect to.
Did you guys hear about I don't know. I heard rumors that Anderson Silva versus Julio Cesar Chavez might be an MMA fight.
Oh, if it is, thank the Lord. But I'm still kind of
An
sad.
MMA fight? You're kidding me.
Yeah,
No,
instead of a
I just don't.
boxing match.
I just don't want to see Anderson Silva get hurt. That's it. Like, you guys know how I feel about Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Um, it is what it is. I don't like him very much. So if Anderson Silva, I just want to make sure Anderson Silva is protected.
So the
If you
first
guys have a
article,
fight,
that comes up is that he's uninterested in fighting Anderson Silva under MMA rules.
uh, okay, I was just about to say, if you guys haven't heard about it, then chances are it's probably not true.
I think it's a boxing match. Yeah.
Probably.
Man, I don't want to see an Anderson Silva. I don't want to see Anderson Silva, period, in a fight anymore.
Look,
But
yeah, entering boxing as just these guys don't understand. Like, boxing's not a joke. It's a completely different sport, and the time to enter boxing is when you are young and specializing in the sport and training under that rule set. Not when you're old and dwindling in your glorious but albeit almost over mixed martial arts career. That's not the time to make the jump to boxing.
well, see, I
And
think Anderson Silva knows that. He just doesn't care. He likes
I think
fighting.
I think he's fought pro boxing in the past, but
He went 2-2, I think.
yeah, yeah. I don't want to. Any more announcements from you guys? Anything else we need to cover?
You don't want to cover the boxing news, Jeremy?
Oh, yeah, of course I do. This week was a huge weekend for boxing. We had cards on all three major networks, DAZN, Showtime, and ESPN Plus. Starting with the DAZN card, we had Conor Ben, the young lion, the young prospect, taking on the Colombian-born, now Toronto, Canada native, Samuel Vargas. Oh my God, Conor Ben is uncomfortably fast. He Listen, shout out to Samuel Vargas for repping Toronto to the fullest. And if you watch the fight, you could see that Vargas had a lot more in him. However, if you were that referee and you saw how Conor Ben was just laying it down on just pouring it on Sammy in the first round, you would have stopped the fight too. Conor Ben is his explosiveness. He has undeniable spectacular speed. And he just and the one that probably made the refs say, okay, I've seen enough of this, was just this wicked uppercut. And you could see that he kind of had to recalibrate Sammy, that is. So that in the first round, that was the main event. Shouts out to Sammy Vargas, world class champion. He came in shape. And Conor Ben, he's looking to fight Amir Khan. And Eddie Hearn said it should be an easy fight to make. However, I feel like he might just be blowing smoke up our where the sun don't shine. Um, because I just think Conor Ben doesn't have too much of a following, or too much what's the word, like, just popularity to get as much money as he wants out of that. So, but he's definitely got the talent to be in there with Amir Khan to make it a good fight. So
Isn't
hopefully,
Amir Khan like 40 and hasn't fought in like 80 years?
right. So Eddie Hearns also said that he would want Amir Khan to maybe have a tune-up fight before he steps into the ring and stuff. Uh, but I think you also want to build up Conor Ben too, because Conor Ben has the talent to build his resume and bring more money to that fight. You know what I mean? Maybe
Sure.
maybe uh increase his purse a little bit. So that's that. Moving on to the Showtime card. That was the another prospect, Drawn Ennis, taking on Sergey Lipinets. That ended in the sixth round. Drawn Ennis is I really like his style. He just knows, when to throw punches. He knows when to get close, when to fight at distance. He knows when to use flurry. So he just seems like a very complete boxer in terms of knowing, when to be where. Basically, like it's kind of hard to explain. Like it's just like when to be where, and he has some interesting matchups ahead of him too. So watch out for Jerron Boots Ennis. He's pretty good. He fights in welterweight too. And the biggest card from the weekend, which took place on ESPN Plus, was under Top Rank Promotions, was Joe Smith Jr. versus Maxim Vlasov. This was a banger. Like Estrada Gonzalez, watch your back because this might take your spot for Fight of the Year. This was an absolute banger. I think the card came out to like like all the cards were like 116 to 114, like literally splitting hairs. Like they were throwing, they were dropping one another, they were dazing one another. It was such a good fight. I love this fight so much. I'm gonna watch it again probably tonight. It was so good. Joe Smith Jr. was getting pieced up by Vlasov the first like 2-3 rounds. Vlasov was touching him up, and then Joe Smith Jr. lands like this, his signature right hand in the third round. Also, last week we talked about this fight. Michael also reminded me, as well as the audience, that Joe Smith Jr. is the same guy who knocked out Bernard Hopkins out of the ring. If you know anything about Bernard B. Hop Hopkins, he's a legend. He's a legend, and I know he was probably in his latter part of his career when he got knocked out of the ring. I didn't even know that was Joe Smith Jr. who did it, but the power is undeniable. The power is undeniable. He is such a powerful fighter, and I honestly thought that I didn't think it was going to be a walk in the park, but I gave him the edge because I knew Maxim Vlasov was also the real deal, but I just thought that Joe Smith Jr.'s power was just going to be too much for him, and Joe Smith also has like great footwork. I didn't think that Maxim Vlasov would be able to catch him too many times with Joe Smith's defense, but apparently I was wrong. This was a great fight. I can't say enough about this fight. If you have a chance, go check it out. Go check out the highlights on YouTube. Great fight. Great fight. Maxim Vlasov could probably take on Artur Bitrev. I think that's how you say his name, Artur Bitrev, next. I'm sorry, I don't think I mentioned Max. Joe Smith Jr. got the decision, split decision, of course, but yeah, that's who he could probably be taking on next. And hopefully Maxim Vlasov gets an opportunity to, also compete for a belt. Great fight. Great.
Do you think this fight will get the Arturo Gatti Mickey Ward treatment, where because it was such a great fight, they just say, sorry, I was gonna swear, screw it, and just give them a rematch just because the first fight was so good that they would.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't seen any articles saying that they're gonna run it back, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. It deserves a rematch, I say.
Oh man, cool.
So, yeah.
Thank you for that beautiful, wonderful boxing update, Jeremy.
You're welcome.
And roll credits. We'll have. Oh, Mike, keep those elbows in, big guy. Anyways, moving on to. God, I think I'm gonna be sick. Moving on to the wonderful world of mixed martial arts, we had fights from the three major promotions. Well, at least that's what one championship would like you to believe. They kept referencing through the night, Eddie Alvarez will have titles in three major promotions. No, he'll have titles in.
Who do you think has that third seat? Do you think it would be PFL, or do you think it'd be one championship? It's between those two. I feel like.
I think it's one UFC, distant second Bellator, and then a distant third, one championship below Bellator.
Really? You think it's more distant than that? Like really distant than Bellator?
One championship completely lacks certain divisions. They have a couple marquee fighters in some divisions, but they have no heavyweight division, no light heavyweight division.
Oh my God! Isn't Brandon Vera their
heavyweight champion, and he hasn't fought in years, except he fought An Lusong, who was their middleweight champion. They just have a complete lack of certain divisions, basically. They have a half-decent lightweight division, but in 145, but that's about it. I mean, they're distantly behind some of the other Risen. We know what Risen is. They put on some good events. They have a couple of good divisions, and it's, for the fans of the Japanese spectacle. PFL, they put on some decent tournaments, but I don't know if I'd just exposure-wise, you can't really consider them in that bracket. But
they have, the thing about PFL is they have some sneaky good fighters on that.
Yeah, that's why I posed the question. Yeah.
Definitely. So moving on, we had a one championship event. Now, before we talk about any of the meaningful fights on the card, all I want to say is, Rog. For
the record, Stefano's been doing that all week because of seeing Senegalese wrestler.
Named Rog, who wins fights on being athletic and black, and that's about it. He's a gigantic heavyweight, and he's coming to dethrone Ngannou. And he won a fight by doing his best front crawl impression inside of the cage with his chin out. So,
but God, when he gets a hold of you, though, Jesus.
Yeah, he's a strong gentleman. He has some decent wrestling, but he was wrestling against a kickboxer who was booked in a kickboxing fight. Omar Kane's opponent fell out. This guy, who hasn't had an MMA fight before, and it showed, fought against Omar Kane, and his best attempt at takedown defense was grabbing the cage. Anyways, what else was there to talk about on the one championship card? I guess the two most important ones that we'll get into are the three. Yeah. Demetrius Johnson eating his first finish in quite a while. It seemed like
I think it's first finish ever.
First finish ever, yeah, against Adriano Moraes, I believe. Is that his name, Moraes? Yeah. Not the man we expected to dethrone DJ, especially because this guy was very, very inactive, hadn't fought in a couple of years, and, owing to one's very sketchy ways in which they implement their weight cutting policy, looked massively larger than Demetrius Johnson. And,
I was going to say.
Yeah, you don't have weight cutting, yet one fighter's 5 inches bigger than the other. Can we explain this?
Not just 5 inches, but huge. Huge. I said this in the group chat. I said he might as well have been my size out there. It was crazy. I was exaggerating, of course, but it was
DJ not doing a lot of the things you'd like. I mean, it was early, and to his credit, you got to let the fight develop a little bit, but not doing a lot of the things you'd like to see against a tall, evasive opponent. Trying to enter in with straight punches, not having a lot of success getting into range. Pretty low output on the feet from both of them. DJ because he's having trouble reaching Moraes. Moraes just the occasional pot shot from the outside, and DJ would rush in with a double jab cross, and then Moraes would just circle out and be nowhere to be found. To his credit, in the first round, Moraes showed what appeared to be an advantage in jiu-jitsu, dropped in on a single leg, and then from the single leg fell to his back, attacked a straight ankle lock, used it as a single leg X-guard sweep to come on top, and DJ spent most of the first round on his back. Second round continued largely the same until, DJ did one of his famous entries with his double jab cross, and then I believe switched into closed stance, and as he shot in, Moraes happened to be throwing an uppercut. It didn't seem like it was something so premeditated throughout the fight or something that, I don't know. To me, I'm not going to say a lucky punch, but it seemed to be, he threw and hoped a little, and knocked DJ on his ass. As DJ tries to come up, there was that brutal, grounded knee from the frame, which are illegal in most other promotions.
But not at one championship.
knocked DJ unconscious.
Yeah.
And it was a bit shocking. It was a bit unnerving to see.
Well, I think.
uh,
Sorry, go ahead.
I thought it was a uppercut that put him to the ground.
Yeah. Like I said, as he was entering in, he hit an uppercut, and then DJ went to get back up. Marias framed on the head, and then it was a knee. A knee as he was coming. The knee was the second strike that knocked him out. And then he followed up on the ground with ground and pound, and it was very clear that DJ was unconscious. I get this feeling when a fighter who we perceive to be very elite, like DJ unquestionably is eating these shots and is unconscious. I'm like, any second now. I know he's got something. Come on. And then
yeah, I hear that.
Even when Connor was unconscious being battered by Poirier, I'm like, Connor's got something up his sleeve,
See, when Connor was up against the fence, I was like, Connor's not done. He's still got it. Look at him. He's slipping and rolling. Oh, he just got hit with another hook. Oh, he just got hit again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I think in this one, though, I think we got our answer as to why knees are illegal.
Because they're effective.
Yeah.
It's honestly, it's something that needs to be accommodated for. And it's whenever a technique like this, rears its head, we always get, it's too dangerous to be allowed. I mean, why? It has the equal amount of power whether you're in that position or whether you're on the feet eating knees from a tie clinch, right? It's the same amount of power. It's just these techniques need time to air out and to breathe and for us to adapt to them, right? So that they're not this one glaring hole in people's games where they've been training to stand up to that position without consequence. And I mean, I think DJ, at least offensively, had conceptualized of these knees before, because I remember one of his earlier One Championships fights, he was hitting those grounded knees and used them to set up a guillotine, which was beautiful. But it's one thing reacting to them defensively and one thing reacting to them offensively.
Reacting to him defensively while hurt when your natural instinct is to tie up when you've been...
Sure. When maybe from that position it's smarter to just sit to your back, as opposed to, but yeah, it's difficult to say. Like, fighters need time to adapt to that rule set, and yeah.
Not like I say this as a striker. I really like hitting a grounded opponent with your knees or your feet, to be honest, because it allows you to kind of avoid grappling exchanges or prolonged grappling exchanges, to be honest. So I'm actually kind of in your boat. The only thing I would say, though, is as a fan of history, I know the way Western cultures treat, or at least North American cultures treat hitting a down person, right? And so it was already a huge fight to get ground and pound to be a thing. Imagine hitting a downed opponent.
Yeah, I like that it exists somewhere in the ethos. It's probably not going to get brought to North America anytime, but I'm happy it exists, and that iteration of combat is a thing. But yeah, wow, that was shocking. What do you think about Demetrius Johnson's future going forward? Because, okay, I would have liked to have seen him, first of all. An evasive opponent like that, you need to get them to stay in place in some way, right? Maybe with low kicks, right? With such a reach disadvantage, normally I'd say hooks up against the cage, body punches, but that would necessitate you getting closer. So I think DJ was not doing some things like kicking the trailing leg and whatnot that I would have liked to have seen him done. Where does DJ go from here? Is this the decline of DJ, or is it too early to say?
I think it's a little early. Sorry, Jeremy, if you want to chime in, but yeah, I think it's a little early because the whole problem is that, like, Adrian Moise, like, I forgot he existed. Like, I saw him before.
I didn't even know he existed until this fight. I'm going to be candid with you.
Yeah, I saw him before. I remember him fighting.
I'm like, wait, One Championships has a 125 champion? I had no idea.
Yeah.
He hasn't fought in quite some time, and I mean,
yeah,
even for hardcore fans like us, it's difficult to keep
100%.
Keep track of every C-tier promotion out there.
Oh, no, 100%. But, like, what I remember from him was that he was not as good, if I have to be honest, or at least that's my perception. He does a lot of the same things, just not as good. So I think DJ just came in there and was shocked. He was shocked that Moise could bang with him from a speed perspective. He was shocked that Moise's jiu-jitsu was so good. And I guess, it wasn't the Moise he expected. So I think I can give him a pass on this one because my recollection was, yeah, Moise wasn't as good before,
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear.
How do you cut off the octagon, or it's a circle, I guess, it won one championship? How do you cut off the uh, arena against somebody who runs away like that?
You need strikes to get them to stand in place. Now, with such, I think low kicks are a big part of that. Your left body kick, right, from an open stance matchup, and your low kick on so if it's a closed stance matchup, especially let's take this particular example because this is DJ cutting off the ring with someone with 5 inches of height on them. Now, hooks can be an effective way to cut off the ring, but by the time DJ attempts to get into range to throw a hook, Moraes would already be exiting, right? So I think leg kicks and body kicks are a big, big way to get somebody to stand in place, right? You especially not just throwing the kick, but faking into range, maybe using those straight punches, and then as Moraes backs out of punching range, you boot the leg, right? Now, if you boot the leg, you have two options. You either take the low kick, right? Or you're forced to stand in place and defend it, or pull your hips back and defend it. And if you do that, then I can enter in with punches again, right? So kicks are a big, big part of that, cutting off the cage. Additionally, you can hang back, right? You can hang back and try and make them come to you instead, right? And refuse to chase them. That's another option as well. Draw them forward, which is what Cody Garbrandt did quite a bit to Dominic Cruz, right? Draw him onto your strikes instead. Yeah.
That's good breakdown. Excellent breakdown. I would add though, just to chime in, that it's significantly harder to cut someone off in a circle than an octagon, and significantly harder to cut someone off in an octagon than a ring.
No corners, right? Yeah. Zero corners to get trapped in one championship.
Mm-hmm. It can still happen. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, but it's difficult. I'm curious to see if anyone. There was a few really old school like campy promotions that tried it out back in the day, but the square cage. I'm interested to see if somebody tries that out again. Probably not on a large scale, but it's an interesting compromise because you still get wall work, but at the same time you have more pronounced corners that you need to cut.
Yeah.
Plus, it looks scary as hell.
I was about to say it's WWE style. It's got that like steel cage.
It reminds me of Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire when he's fighting that wrestler, the Bone Saw, that guy.
Yeah. I guess that's R.I.P. Randy Savage, but okay.
Oh, that was Randy Savage?
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Macho Man, a.k.a. Bonesaw. So next up on that card, we had a interesting little fight with Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez getting disqualified. And then ONE FC is going to bill this as Eddie Alvarez has struggled against one championship fighters. It's like he got disqualified. Early on, it seemed like after he ate a few kicks from Lapalus, he's like, okay, I need to be mindful about when and how I enter range. So he was kind of just like, I call it dipping your foot in the water when you're just bouncing in and back out, bouncing in and back out, and level changing as he's doing it. Just testing the water, right? It's like a feint, but it's a feint of entering distance as opposed to feinting a punch. You're feinting entering distance. So he just put his foot in and bounce out, put his foot in and bounce out, and try and draw out the strikes. And once he'd done that enough to kind of throw off Lapalus's timing, Giorgio Petrosian trained Yuri Lapalus, took him down, effortlessly passed him out, and just from that point on, little strikes from Mount, those little hammer fists. Lapalus was holding on, tight, kind of with a double underhooks in Mount, which is never advisable because eventually you're going to get pummeled. It's temporary and it's not going to get you out of the position. And Eddie was warned once. The strikes were questionable at best, and kind of the finishing blows came as it seemed like Yuri ate one more of those hammer fists to the back of the head. He turned away, and Eddie, the final one I think was a good faith attempt to hit a hammer fist, but because he turned away in the opposite direction, ended up hitting a couple times again in the back of the head, and disqualification. Gentlemen, what do you think?
Okay. I thought the rule was intentional strikes to the back of the head are illegal. But if you're turning, then it's legal because you can't foul bait your way out of a loss in MMA. That's what I thought the rule was. So I was understandably
It's a difficult
perplexed.
fringe case, right? This one. It's a difficult fringe case because it's not quite foul baiting, less necessarily as bad as like, I don't know. Like he was grabbing on tight and covering the front of his face, right? Is that really foul baiting? Or is, Lapalus, to be fair, I'm going to make the assumption that he was playing up the strike to the back of the head. I'm not necessarily, again, opposed to that. If your opponent lands an illegal strike on you, it's not your obligation to fight through it, especially even if you're like 5% compromised. But, could you call this foul baiting?
I just think that, okay, the reason why I would say I will call it foul baiting. The reason why I would is because he's turning away as Eddie Alvarez is striking him. It's not one of those like he's in the clinch and he's working and he's got his head to one side and he's giving Eddie Alvarez a target and then turning away and getting him the back of the head.
Like rewatch it. It wasn't that to me. It was him grabbing on tight, and the only target that was exposed was his ear. That's like saying if I cover up my face like this, if I'm guarding like this, and you're like, I'm not giving you that target here, and you're coming or arcing around and hitting the back of my head intentionally.
Well, that's not what happened here. At least from my interpretation. My interpretation was when he was when Lapalus was grabbing Eddie Alvarez, he had his face buried in his chest.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 shots where Lapalus starts looking. I don't know if he's looking at his corner or if he's looking away. If he's looking at his corner, fine. Okay. Accidental, it is what it is. But it looked to me like someone was saying back of the head and he was like, all right, let me turn away here as I'm in the fence. And for me, that's foul baiting.
I think the turn came after Lapalus was hurt from the strike to the back of the head, right?
You think so? Okay.
Yeah, like you see his face grimace and he turns away, right, as if he's hurt, and then Alvarez unintentionally lands another strike to the back of the head as he turns. That was my view of it. I mean, you can rewatch it and come to your own conclusion. I think it's tragic in a way for us and for Eddie because it seemed like he overwhelmingly had the skills to win that match. The past amount was effortless. And Lapalus seemed to have nothing on the ground for Eddie. But ultimately, if you end a fight through an illegal strike, I think,
DQ.
Intentional or not, DQ. And in some cases, you might...
I thought that's a no contest, though.
You think that was a no contest? Yeah. It seems like we have... what these past couple months have showed us is that we have some inconsistencies in the rules of MMA which need ironing out. And that these gray areas might actually start to appear more and not less as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm with the no contest. I'm with the no contest verdict because you don't have knockdowns in MMA. If somebody turns their back, I don't see that as being the other opponent's fault that they deliver a strike. Only because I'm taking that as like in boxing, if you turn your back, that's considered a knockdown. So I just feel like it's a no contest, really.
In some cases, too, when it's like when there's a moving target, it's not even called. For example, I've brought this up quite a few times, but Pat Barry versus Anthony Hardonk. Pat Barry throws a strike to the chin. Anthony Hardonk moves out of range and hits him clearly with a punch in the throat, which is what causes the knockdown and the TKO. And nobody batted an eye. Right? Nobody batted an eye. Nobody called it into question. And we've seen many head kicks as well, where the foot wraps around and hits the back of the head. Yeah. So we've really got to iron these inconsistencies out, I really think. And it's uncomfortable for some people.
Honestly, I feel like some of them will never be ironed out, just because like they're so like dynamic, right? Like you're talking about such a fast moving sport with no real breaks in the action, like mixed martial arts, right? So because of that, we're just some these are kind of I wouldn't necessarily say necessary evil, but I think a lot of these will happen, and we're just gonna have to throw our hands up in the air because some of them are just you're trying to change a fighter's kind of mentality. You get what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I get what you're saying. And also, you just have so many people who see things differently. Like, you have some people who feel that knees should be thrown, and then but then I think we're just going to have to accept that we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to have instances that we're going to need the rules changed, because the hindsight is always 2020. So I think we're just gonna have to accept that that each match is going to bring a new
What we on
conversation.
now? What did I miss?
I was just making a point that each match that we get in whatever MMA league is going to bring a new discussion about how we can make the sport safer and more uh, uh, I don't know the word.
Just eliminate the fouls, right? Like how do we
I,
eliminate them?
I think I know what the second word is you're searching for, and it's got something to do with like more consistency to it, less like it feels more like a finished product as opposed to something in the works.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a smoother product, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to discuss on that card? We got a lot of content to discuss, and on a normal
Well,
day, we got two more cards.
Yeah, I just
Normally, I'd
want
love to get into Rod Tang. Had a very fun fight
Yeah.
with an Australian gentleman. There was a great fight with Enrico Kell, but
just Raw Tang Appreciation Hour. Cool. All right.
Rod Tang. He's got a tangy rod, that gentleman.
Yeah.
Anyways, we've got the Bellator card. I guess really, I don't know if you guys want to get into any of the other fights on it, but I think the most important one would be the main event, as it's a part of the Bellator Light Heavyweight Grand Prix, which is going to crown a new.
Spaghettios, Stefano's audio. No, we cannot.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, which will crown potentially a new champion, I should say. Not necessarily a new champion in the light heavyweight division. And the opening salvo was fired. Ryan Bader versus Lyoto Machida. And wow. Machida's clearly lost a step. Dangerous in the first round, and it was difficult clearly for Ryan Bader to get to him. He can still clearly kick like a mule. And I'm like, watching that opening round, I'm like, wow, maybe Bader hasn't learned a ton of lessons from that first fight and cutting off the cage. But he found Machida and was able to press him up against the cage frequently. Blitz in on him, trap him there. And from that point, it was just ground and pound from half guard, side control, turtle position, and it was brutal. Machida looked like a mess by the end of this.
Yeah. But you know what? That's what happens when a 30. What's Machida now? Like 39? Some insane number like that?
No, he's 42.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, that's what happens when a 42-year-old is fighting against a former light heavyweight champion of Bellator. Like, what we think was going to happen. Although he did look good early.
Early, he presented some problems for Bader, for sure. But yeah, he lacked a lot of the tools to keep Bader off of him. Man, that intercepting counter wasn't really there for him, and he just Bader was able to wrestle his way to victory. It was. Did you think this fight had any cause for being stopped?
It's interesting. Not in normal circumstances, no. But because Machida is older, I felt very uncomfortable by like the fourth. And so because I was uncomfortable, I was like, maybe we should end it. But the thing is like, at what point do we just kind of take the kid gloves off of people and say, you know what? Let's treat this like it's two 20-year-olds here and go after it, because it sounds callous. Like, what I'm saying, it sounds callous, but, you have to treat it like a fight. You have to treat it like it's a professional fight. And in a professional fight on a normal setting, I thought it was Edson versus Kevin Lee there. Like, where it's like, you kind of have to let it go.
Yeah. And with this fight, it's difficult because there was no one point that you can point to and say, yeah, this needs to be stopped at this point. But anyways, Bader moves on, and this tournament's got some scary individuals in it, so I look forward to seeing how it develops.
Yeah.
Katzengano had an easy fight. Gochi Yamamushi got robbed, but was able to pull off one of my favorite sweeps to use from the closed guard. Pulled off that pendulum sweep, so I just wanted to bring quick attention to that several times and just put on a jiu-jitsu clinic and still lost somehow. Liz Carmouche won. Jeremy Kennedy lost.
Versus Vanessa Porto, who I think is an underrated fighter, so good job.
Yeah, she looked decent. Okay, now on to the UFC card this weekend.
Ooh,
and,
boy.
Well, let's who is going to be middleweight champion by the end of 2021, and why is it Marvin Vettori?
See, I knew you were going to do this. Okay, so a couple caveats before we roast Kevin Holland. He took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. Okay? Right? He had a fight where his wrestling was exposed, and not really much you can do in 2 weeks to clean up the wrestling. Kevin Holland also should probably, if there was ever a case to say a 175 division should be made, Kevin Holland is probably the guy.
Certainly one of them, yeah.
Yeah. So because of all of those things, do we shoot Kevin Holland some bail for the embarrassing performance he had on national television?
Should we say embarrassing? I mean, man, there comes with a. Oh, Jeremy, go on. You had your finger up.
Yeah, my thing is lagging.
Yeah, it's been lagging all episode.
Yeah, I know. 175 to what? Like, I mean, from what to 175?
175 to 185. Like, I don't know.
Or you could go directly in between. You could go like.
No, because it's 170 to 185 right now, correct?
Yeah. You could go 177.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? 177.
177 to 185?
Yeah.
That's dangerously close to the 5-6 pound thing that you said you hate about boxing.
Well, the only reason why we have to is because the UFC lacked the foresight from 170 to 185. Right?
I gotta be fair. I gotta be honest. I don't think that what people hate about boxing is the multitude of weight classes. I think it's the multitude of titles, promotions, and weight classes that overwhelm people.
That confounds the problem too.
Yeah, I think adding a few extra weight classes to the UFC wouldn't really water down or hurt the product, right? In the way that they think it would.
Find a niche.
What's that?
Everyone can find their specific.
Yeah.
way.
But like
when you're dealing with lean athletes that are working with low percentages of body fat, 5 pounds makes a difference. Absolutely. 5-10 pounds.
I understand. But like at the same time though, let's not get crazy and say like, 5 pounds in every single weight class wouldn't also give us issues too, right?
No, not necessarily, but bring us back to the fight at hand. I just want to draw attention to a couple of things. So, we love to celebrate fighters like Kevin Holland that take fights on short notice, right? We love to. And if Kevin Holland won this, we'd be singing his praises. Mm-hmm. This is the risk that comes with taking a fight without a training camp. What's the function of a training camp? A training camp is to prep for a specific opponent and, prep for a specific opponent and exploit their weaknesses and fight to your strengths. Kevin Holland didn't seem like he was able to do that. He wasn't able to keep Marvin Vettori off of him. And he has the tools to do it. He has a phenomenal lead sidekick. He just couldn't control the distance in a way in which he wanted to. Now, lesser men would have been felled in that early round, because Kevin Holland was kicking to the body like a horse, and Marvin Vettori wasn't able to get his timing. His punches were coming in fast, his straight punches, his body kicks, and Vettori was seemingly, until he got that takedown, a bit of a moving target. But where Vettori started succeeding was fighting with the hands. Always a good thing to do, hand fighting against a faster opponent, because it's a good way to slow them down, and an opponent with reach on you, because you can always gauge where they are at all points in time. And one thing that has served him very well throughout his career was that deep slip. He stands in southpaw and then steps deep past that right cross, and then fires off his own from there. And he doesn't do it in a way like Henry Cejudo, where Cejudo kind of is constantly circling in that direction, drawing you in. Vittori's a presence in your face, waiting, pressuring you to throw that cross, and then coming back with 2, 3, 4 punches.
Now he's a really nice pull and a really nice slip, and he uses them to great effect.
Exactly, and then he comes back with 3 or 4 strikes, 3 or 4 punches, usually a lead hook and then another cross afterwards, and then he's on you. He's chest to chest, he's taking you down, and his wrestling looked good. He was able to overcome the early, strength that Holland seemed to present, lock his hands behind the back and take him to center cage. His finishes up against the cage for wrestling looked beautiful. It can be difficult when somebody's spreading their hips, preventing you from getting your hands locked and turning towards you, but there's a couple of tricks you can use that Vettori had on full display. Changing angles, right, is one of them, to kind of strip them off the fence. And he looked good. He looked very good in my estimation, in his ability to apply wrestling and fight a hard pace over 5 rounds. Sorry, I know I'm rambling. His offensive jiu-jitsu and ground and pound as well, I thought was great. Always hunting for that arm triangle, and Kevin Holland, no slouch on the ground. Black belt under Travis Lutter. So,
yeah,
gentlemen, I think I've rambled enough. Go on.
No, I'm with you. I actually think, to Kevin Holland's credit, is that his bottom game isn't bad. I don't think the problem is with his bottom game per se in the jiu-jitsu context. It's the ability to get up from the bottom that I think a lot of people have issue with. And yeah, the reason why is I don't know necessarily what was the issue was. Was it that Marvin Vettori was such a great wrestler, or was it that Marvin Vettori had such a huge strength advantage? Because there were instances where I was like, if Kevin Holland was stronger, does Marvin Vettori get that takedown? Like, there was one where Kevin Holland sprawls, gets up against the fence, has his base very wide, is doing all the right things, and Marvin Vettori just lifts with his back and pulls Kevin Holland off of the fence and then takes him down.
Well, can I interject, because there's a couple of tricks. I've recently been watching James Krause's Wall Wrestling Instructional, and there's a couple of tricks he talks about that I saw present in this fight. And to be fair, yeah, Vettori's a very physical fighter, very strong fighter, and uses that to his advantage. But a couple of tricks I saw him used is that when your opponent does keep their hips low and their legs wide, and what Vettori did was you can only drive into them for so long against the fence, but if you cup behind their knee and kind of adjust the angle, cup behind their knee, you pull them off the fence a little bit, and then you can re-enter in, and now their hips are squared to you again, instead of pushing your head away from you. And if you do it, you can do it either to pull them off the fence and rotate them to the ground, or to, like I said, force them to square their hips to you and then enter in again. So there was some subtlety there, to be fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I just don't know how much of it was that, right? But I trust your opinion. I think you're you're a leader in this aspect, to be honest. So I'm willing to concede that, hey, Marvin Vettori just kind of was the better technical wrestler, which he definitely was. But,
I said I am a thought leader. No. Yeah, and
I thought I saw some incremental improvements by Kevin Holland when it came to his jiu-jitsu defense, his wrestling defense. But I think that is just because it was 2 weeks notice. Maybe if he had some more time, he could have improved it more. But Yeah, I thought I saw some improvement.
Well, the improvement I did see is in Kevin Holland's attitude, actually. And I don't know if
Really?
you guys want to
Hold
go
on.
with this. Sorry.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Mike's not a big fan of trash talk. I don't know why, but
no, it's not the trash talk. Actually, I just thought like look, Kevin Holland's attitude in the last fight seemed like it was a man who was frustrated and was hiding his frustration in antics in other ways. And I think, you know, to give Stefano a heart attack here, I think he needed a come to Jesus moment on his frustration issues and saying to himself, okay, I am frustrated. How do I fix this rather than going to my natural defense mechanism of just talking a lot of shit and not figuring out the task at hand. And to his credit, I didn't see that defense mechanism much, or at least I didn't see what I perceived to be that defense mechanism much. If he was trash talking, it was Kevin Holland, right, as a competitor and not as a frustrated person who's giving up on themselves and retreating. So what gives me hope is that Kevin Holland will learn from this and learn from the Derek Brunson fight, and will probably come in the next fight he has with new skills on figuring out the wrestling.
hopefully, yeah, I'd like to see him take some time or a step down in competition and reevaluate, work on his weaknesses. Absolutely.
In fairness, he faced the number 7 and number 6 guy in the world right now, so
Sure.
14, 15 wouldn't be so bad for him.
One thing that was funny is that Vittori's in the post-fight interview afterwards, and he's like, "Fucking hell!" And then DC's like, "Hey, don't cuss." Like it was dad as fuck, but at the same time, it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Is a swear word offensive to you after watching someone get their face bludgeoned in for 25
Hey,
minutes straight?
Stefano.
Yeah.
I had flashbacks from Joan. I had flashbacks to Joan and Villanova when he said, "Bro, you kicked me in the balls, bro."
man,
Bro,
those Woodbridge rivalries.
that was so, and
Italian.
in the most endearing way possible. That was so Italian of him to do.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. His mannerisms, everything. It's nice to see one of our own. Oh yeah. At the end of the in the first round, bro. What the fuck? You kicked me in the balls.
I think the word to use was that was right in the nuts, bro.
Why does
Bro.
your Italian accent sounds like some Arabic merchant in like an RPG? This is your Italian impression, bro. You kick me right in the nuts, bro. Have you tried my date milk?
I'm trying.
Dude, there's a
You
guy
make
we
fun
used
of
to chill
my
with.
African impression? That's your Italian impression?
I
You
can
went to
actually do
school with
a
a
good.
bunch of Italians, Jeremy.
I can do a good Italian accent. I'm just
Bro,
trying
have
to
you
do
tried my date milk?
that. I can
Bro.
actually do a good Italian accent. I think I can.
Well,
So,
we used to know a dude named Andy back in the day, and Andy was the most like immigrated, fresh off the boat from Italy.
Oh yeah, Andy.
Yeah. And he used to play with us on the football team, and this guy was so Italian. It was, and I mean that in the nicest way, like great culture, love the people, the most Italian guy ever, right? And I remember seeing him at the gym the other day too. But yeah, uh, Andy, awesome dude, and he was like always like, bro, I just saw the nicest girl the other day, bro. Oh, she had the biggest, so yeah, it was like,
well, thank you for that, Mike.
sorry, went on a tangent. Anyway, Marvin Vettori, who's he face next?
Israel Adesanya, and he beats him and becomes middleweight champion.
Oh God, okay? I gotta ask you a legit question. Do you think Marvin Vettori? Okay, you're doing a parlay. Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. Who's your parlay on?
I wouldn't have to do a parlay because Vittori would be the underdog, and I'd bet on him and make money. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I think you're delusional. I think I gotta take you to a 12-step program because you're clearly.
Well, when Israel Adesanya is gasping for air up against the cage after being taken down for the 14th time, you come back to me and you tell me how how you
Oh
feel
yeah,
about
Marvin
that.
Vettori has a record for the most takedowns. Yippee.
That's right. That's right. Italians putting ourselves on the map again. Let's get it. Um, we've got the best Muay Thai fighter in the world, best boxer in history, and we're soon to have the best MMA fighter in the world too. Anyways, Arnold Allen versus Sadiq Youssef. I was surprised about how this
Yeah,
one went down.
yeah, kind of shocked too.
Fun fight. Arnold Allen good use of movement. I'm not going to lie to you. I caught this one in bits and pieces. So, gentlemen, take it away.
Um, go ahead. Sorry.
I thought Yusuf needed to move his head simply, to put it simple and plain. He needed to move his head more. He was just walking right into his punches, I felt. But honestly, that's nothing away from Arnold Allen, who put on basically a clinic uh, on how to pick somebody apart. So,
Man, Allen looks strong in clinches.
yeah,
Yeah, that
exactly.
was the
And
other
also
thing.
he won just about to say he won the wrestling exchanges too, and he took him down a few times if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, what I was shocked about is that Sadiq Yusuf typically enjoys a speed advantage and a strength advantage. And he still definitely was the faster guy, but Arnold Allen was really good at keeping him all the way out and then getting all the way in on him and then displaying a surprising strength advantage here. At least to me. Maybe it was just more of a technical advantage with the wrestling, but there were some moments where he overpowered Sadiq up against the fence, on the ground. And it just seemed like Sadiq ran into a guy who confused him a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely, he did. It seemed like he didn't know where the punches were coming from, kind of, to me. So he was just kind of throwing all willy nilly, and he got caught off balance one too many times. And then the one time he got taken down, uh, yeah, the one time he got taken down was when he tried to throw like is Yusuf southpaw or is he orthodox? I think he's southpaw, no? Or is he orthodox?
I
Well,
remember.
I felt like maybe he might have switched stances or whatever, but he threw like a straight and then he got caught off balance, and that's when Allen took him down. So I just felt like it was really just an outclassing, just based on the fact that uh, Yusuf needs to work on his head movement. Essentially, I think his head movement would have opened doors for him. He maybe could have worked the body a little bit if he just kind of. I hate using typical words like moving your head off the center line, but that's basically what you need to do, just momentarily, just to open up the body and everything like that. So, or just to get to the body, or maybe hit him with a hook. So.
I think he would benefit from a more diverse attack. It just seemed like it's not like Sadiq Yusuf doesn't have leg kicks, right? It's not like he doesn't have body kicks. I think he could have just benefited from a more like, the front kick in MMA is criminally underutilized, right? And you know what, in general, the rear teep is just not used the way it should be used in fighting. And I think Sadiq, whenever they were in open stance with each other, could have benefited from attacking the body with the legs or attacking the legs with some kicks there to open up the hands, because now all of a sudden Arnold Allen has to worry about the hands. And
I think ever since guys began to catch that leg and then maybe sweep the leg or like catch the leg, throw it out of the way, and then throw that hook cross, I think guys started getting scared with using the front kick or the teep. So
fair enough. I just think it's not used well enough. It's not an easy. Here's the thing. It's not an easy maneuver to catch, especially if you're doing it with the right technique. Like, a lot of people think, oh, you just put it there and whoop, there you go. But it's not that simple. Um, there was one other aspect I was going to say. Okay, so judging. Judging in this thing. The judges had it 29-28. Are we mad at that? Because
I thought Allen took all 3 rounds.
Me too.
Based on dropping. Yeah, the third round though, I guess Sadiq seemed to be dictating the pace a little more in certain aspects of the fight. I don't know. I'm comfortable. The third round was a bit of a toss-up, I suppose, but I'm comfortable. I would have been comfortable giving all 3 to Allen.
Yeah. See, I had all 3 Allen, so I was wondering if, like, it's not a big deal because at the end of the day, the right guy won, so who cares? But it was, at the end of the day, a 29-28, and it's like, where in that, I guess the third round maybe, but, like, it's like, where did you see that being a win for Yusuf? Like, you know?
So, moving on, we had Julian Marquez absolutely bludgeoning Sam Alvey. Friend of the podcast, Sam Alvey. This was hard to see.
We're pulling for Sam, too.
I was pulling for Sam. He just got beaten to the punch. There aren't many people that can just stand and brawl with Sam Alvey. Julian Marquez seemed to be one of them. He was faster.
That's the one thing, right? Sorry, go ahead.
It's too bad because Marquez, when he was employing that left cross to the body and left cross to the head quite well, actually. But he was dipping so much, and Alvey showed excellent use of that lead uppercut in the his last fight against Zhao Zhang, who fought on this card as well. And I thought that could have been a good weapon for Alvey to catch him on the way in. But, the finish was brutal with that rear naked choke. It didn't even look it wasn't even fully in the position that you wanted. It was forearm right across the throat. But Marquez clearly has such a squeeze that no hooks in, just compressed Alvey's throat and put him to sleep. Sad to see for such a nice guy. But,
I was going to say, it just seemed like the speed advantage was clearly for Julian Marquez. He looked so much faster.
Which is interesting because in his last fight, he looked quite outspeeded by Maki Bitolo.
Yeah, so I know, like, Marquez pulled off the W there too, but yeah, it did look like Marquez was just faster. I wouldn't say so much faster. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but yeah, he was speedy. Especially with just landing to the body, working upstairs. And yeah, he's a hell of a strong guy. His jiu-jitsu is like underrated. Then again, you're beating Maki Bertolo. So it's like not the greatest indication, but against Sam Alvey, that's definitely a great indication of jiu-jitsu there. So
And then speaking of jiu-jitsu, we had Mackenzie Dern beating Nina Nunes as she's going by now.
That messed me up because I remember when they were saying she's taking on number 5 ranked Nina Nunes. I was like, who the hell is Nina Nunes?
Yeah. I was like, did Nina Ansaroff fall off? Like, did she drop off the card? What's going on? Is she being replaced? I'm like, oh no, okay, all right, got it. Dern came out. First of all, she looked thin. She looked like she's been taking the weight cut seriously these days.
Thank you. Fine.
She came out and just blasted Nunes with an overhand with leg kicks, and Nunes looked to be in that state where you're so worried about the takedown that your head's not moving and you're not aware of the strikes coming at you. And when this got to the floor, it was just systematic. Dern using a beautiful knee slice pass.
I've learned so much from just that one fight. Like, I'm never getting leg locked again when I get to Matador. Now that I watch this, I'm never getting. Karim, watch it back. I'm never getting leg locked again.
I'm gonna leg lock you, Jeremy. Anyways,
I think I got a crush on Mackenzie Dern. She's a killer.
That she is, and a killer with a magnificent armbar. I mean, she sets this up from a little bit of ground and pound and. Moves over to S-mount, and once these arm bars are on, they're on. She does not mess around in these submissions. Once her arm bar is locked in, she's going for the break, and that's what you got to do.
Man, I just really like how she's taking the weight cut seriously, because that was the only issue with her, right? And it's part of the reason why she did lose to Amanda Hebas is because she was just so drained from the weight cut that she just was getting beaten to the steps. So for her to now, really take the strength and conditioning and the nutrition seriously, I think sky's the limit for her. I really do. Her boxing still is, a little.
I mean,
Yeah.
she didn't really have time to kind of show any scientific boxing in this fight, I think, because she kind of just blasted Nunes out of the gate.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, I'm in the past. I agree, her boxing and even her wrestling hasn't looked spectacular, but the single leg looked pretty good in this fight.
Yeah, the single leg looked good. I'm just saying the shots looked a little loopy to me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well,
yeah, go ahead.
We'll see. She's an interesting challenger for Valentina, just based on the fact that she has an area where she can absolutely beat Valentina. On the mat, she can submit Valentina, and I don't think that's even in question.
Not a discussion. It's not a discussion, yeah.
So, and that's what I like. That's what I like for a dominant champion, somebody that poses such an overwhelming threat in one area or the other, right? If she can get it to the ground, what's that?
I thought that was going to be Maya, because Jennifer Maya is a great. She's not, in terms of credentials, she's not Mackenzie Dern, but on the ground though, Jennifer Maya has some heat. She has.
Well, in some regard, she took rounds from Valentina, right? Wasn't the greatest Valentina fight, but yeah. Okay, it's time for Mike to have his weekly rant about Mike Perry. You ready, Mike? He's a meme fighter. He's a meme fighter. He actually is with MMA Masters now, so he has some legitimate cornering, but they weren't able to make it out for his fight. So again, he was alone in his corner with his silent girlfriend, and he was just beaten with basic boxing and saved from being, wrought iron tough, but just 1-1-2 down the pipe. It looked like this looked like a moving target. Like Daniel Rodriguez was, it looked like your coach was like, okay, one of you is going to work on defense, one of you is going to work on offense. And the guy on defense forgot all of his defense. Mike Perry, he had the odd body kick that he would throw in this fight, but Mike, I'm going to let you go to town. Go for it. Do your thing.
All right, where do I start? Okay, I'm going to read out the judges' scorecards for you. Okay. 30-27, 30-27, and 30-26. Okay? I would have probably scored it 30-25 in some capacity. Meaning, Mike Perry got 10-8'd in 2 rounds when I watched the fight. This was a merciful scorecard. What was the significant strike advantage? I think it was some insane number like 103 to 25 or something. Some insane number like that. And here's the best part. Poor girl, and I don't want to trash all over her. Lotori Gonzalez. He goes to the corner. She gets the ice. She gets the water. And Mike Perry gets no advice because he has his girlfriend in the corner. He has his girlfriend in the corner. He goes back out for the second round. So first round happens. He's getting pieced up. He goes out for the second round, right? He's given no advice because, again, he has his girlfriend in the corner. And the same thing happens again, right? Then he comes out for the third round. He has his girlfriend in the corner. No advice. Same thing happens again. That third round was an embarrassment. This is an embarrassment. Why do we do this? This is why our sport, why guys like Stephen A. Smith with no consequences can trash our sport and and be ignorant about it, because we have guys like Mike Perry still on this roster. And I love Mike Perry. I want him to get as much help as possible. I want Mike Perry to succeed. I want Mike Perry to do well. But this has to stop. Why is this a thing?
Yeah, he's clearly at this point not UFC
this
caliber.
This is a train wreck. This is such a train wreck. Sorry, I cut you off.
Go for it.
This is such a train wreck. This man has repeatedly said the N-word on multiple occasions. He has beaten up old men in bars. He has shown no regard for safety of his own life, no regard for his own career. Does not take this seriously, and is out here embarrassing. This scorecard was so merciful. I honestly thought, I was talking to Stefano, I thought there was a 10-7 somewhere. This scorecard was so merciful.
I think this is one of those fights that could have been stopped based on lack of competitiveness, and I think that's a thing that needs to happen more in the future, where a fight is clearly so one-sided, and whether it's going to be finished or not, you know, the result is just going to be one fighter needlessly enduring punishments and not really having a solution outside of some slip on a banana peel, or it's just. We need to see more fights stopped on lack of competitiveness, and I think this could easily have been one of those cases.
He didn't know what to do. That was the whole thing. And that's the thing. How could he know what to do? No one was giving him advice. He's out there getting shell-shocked by someone who honestly, no disrespect to Daniel Rodriguez, but I've seen Mike Perry go toe-to-toe with Vicente Luque and nearly win. This is not the caliber of fighter Mike Perry should be losing to. It's not. And for him to be so battered that we're talking about this fight being stopped due to lack of competitiveness is embarrassing. I can't believe the commission allows this to take place. I can't believe Dana White allows this to take place. Dana White's out here cutting guys for losing 3 straight.
Yeah. He's got one fight left on his contract. I suspect they might even give him his walking papers early and just buy out his contract. We'll see. I don't think we'll be seeing much of Mike Perry in the future. I think we'll be seeing more of him knocking out old men in bars, and I mean, that's about it.
I don't understand.
Well, with that being said, some interesting fights on the undercard, but
you know what? I'll say this. If there's fans on the internet who, get mad at so-and-so for being a boring fighter and talk about how so-and-so should be cut because they're not pushing the action, here, Mike Perry is the reason why you're an idiot and you should stop watching the UFC and and honestly, we don't want your money and we don't need your eyes on this sport. All right, now I'm done. Go ahead.
Final point for today. Today was historic in that it was the first time Venom gear was, worn by UFC fighters. In my view, I'll keep it brief. It looked good.
I knew something looked different. Yeah, that's right. They were wearing Venom gear.
It looked good.
Looks different about the. Okay, go ahead.
But I didn't see no sponsorships, UFC, and I heard rumors that they were going to allow fighters 2 sponsors. And given that Venom has only very marginally and non-substantially increased the pay, in fact, it's actually a drop from the pay that Reebok was giving if you account for inflation. Nice fight gear. And fighters still getting screwed over.
I was about to say, it at least looks better. It looks nice.
Yeah. Better than Reebok.
Yeah.
That's the standard we hold ourselves to. Better than Reebok.
They didn't mess up any names.
That is a high standard to hold yourself to. There were no Giblert Melendez's or, Anderson Aldo's, unfortunately.
Conor McGregor is from North Ireland, by the way, guys.
Oh yeah.
I'm kidding, but yeah. So yeah.
So we,
They say words about DMX.
Oh yeah.
Rest in peace, DMX.
I want to say I'm gonna be quick. I won't be long-winded. I'm just gonna be short and respectful. I'll let you guys into my life outside of sports. I just want to say rest in peace to DMX. There's certain artists that I appreciate when they bear their souls onto their music. Artists like Billie Holiday, artists like Amy Winehouse, and now DMX. All of these artists, unfortunately, struggle with demons, as we all do. And that's why I can appreciate just the raw, unfiltered, visceral emotion, whether that be pain, whether that be aggression, which could be considered a form of pain. And I just want to say thank you, DMX, for giving a sound to what a lot of us, feel sometimes. So,
And for giving us some of the best pump up music in the game.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Rest in peace, King.
Rest in power.
Yeah. Hurt me a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Well, on that very sad note, rest in peace, DMX. We are the Leg Kick Podcast. It's been a pleasure hosting you guys. It's been a long and exhausting episode, but we had a lot to cover. Take care, everybody.